It's another Friday, it's another What a Shout, brought to you by the Racing Post and our sponsors Bet365. All the big calls on all the big races. Dave Orton, delighted to be back with you after a week in the sun. And talking about a week in the sun, I've been away, you wouldn't believe it, look at me. I'm still not as tanned as the two men next to me. Paul Kealy's back in the chair. Paul, been out playing golf, clearly still.
Playing golf, I'm actually getting worse. You know, I mean, I played terrible last couple of weeks. Millington absolutely thrashed me. They're beating me off levels. And I normally
That's got to be disappointing.
Yeah, it's disappointing, yeah. But
that's got to be disappointing.
We'll be back next week.
And you can tell the sign of the times. We hopefully are getting back to some sort of new normal. We've got a guest in the studio, and Ollie Cole joins us. Ollie, thanks for coming in.
Well, thanks very much for having me. It's a great honour to be here and a great setup. And
it's a great honour. I'll tell you what, this is new for us, isn't it? A great honour as well. Happy days. Lovely to have you at our humble abode, Ollie. So what a lineup we've got for you, Ollie. Cole in the studio, Paul Kealy giving you his pearls, and Pat Cooney steering us the right way. We're going to be looking at the hot topic, of course. We're going to be looking at your racing clues, Ebor Festival, what happened there, what we're going to see going forward. We're going to be previewing plenty of races for you, and of course the big calls before the naps. Don't forget, if you've not signed up to our sponsors Bet365, there is a referral code, SHOUT365. Minimum deposit of £5. You can get up to £100 in bet credits. Have a go. So the hot topic, let's get straight to it, because we've got Ollie in the studio and it's twice as nice. Now, we've had a target on your back because, you know, for this show, because we've got something new this year, and it's the training partnerships. Now, Ed and Simon Crystal, or Simon Ed Crystal, whichever one you do it, father and son have gone into it with great success. And here you are. Joined your dad, Paul Cole, classic winning trainer.
Yeah.
And this is something new, isn't it?
Well, mine is definitely Paul and Oliver Cole at the moment, but, you know, one day it might go the other way.
Well, let's concentrate on that, because, Ollie, you've actually been in racing for a long time, haven't you? You went down under, when we'll talk about Australia, because Australia is where these training partnerships form, not when you were down there in 2000. You were down there slightly before me, which we were talking off air before, and I was like, a long time ago, isn't it? Yeah. In 2000. I was down there in 2001. And the great trainers down there, the queen of Australian racing, Gay Waterhouse herself, she was the main woman, John Hawkes, people like that. All of these have now become training partnerships. Yeah. And this happened 10 years ago, in Australia, to evolve the game down there, make it easier. And at the moment, I think I did some research in the week, the current premierships out there, in Sydney in particular, 7 out of the top 13 in the Premiership are these training partnerships. We've got Kieran Maher and our own David Eustace, who you know, son of James, who went down there, doing a bit like what you did. A lot of people go down there and cut their teeth, don't they? Is that what you did initially? And is this where you got a flavour of this?
No, well, I went down there. I worked for Coolmore. I worked for Coolmore to start with, and I went down there. I worked in Ireland first, and I went to Australia with them, and I loved it so much, and I decided I'd like to stay down there, and I decided to go back there actually, and I went to Michael Moroney, a trainer down there, and it was very difficult to start with because we had to get up at like 2:30 in the morning, and getting up at 2:30 in the morning to be at the track by 3 is quite difficult. So to get into that way of life, I found really quite challenging, especially when you're 5 minutes away from the casino, the Melbourne casino.
There's a lot of them there. Yeah, that would suit you, Kills, wouldn't it? Because you don't sleep, do you?
No chance. I wouldn't be alive now. I did that. Getting up at 2:30.
So we had to get the priorities right.
Yeah.
Anyway, we ended up getting the priorities right. And I got into it and I loved it. And I used to be a lot lighter. I rode as an amateur, so I did a bit of work on the track.
I can remember that.
Sort of, yeah. Well, it wasn't. Unfortunately, I haven't forgotten it. But
no Simon Walker.
Yeah, exactly. No Simon Walker. But I was always far too heavy, and then to do the weight, it was just impossible.
Yeah, okay, that's a problem, isn't it?
And then you're weak. But I did have a winner, I suppose. Anyway, I sort of down there, they were all by the clock, and I'd never done anything by the clock. So to get the timings right, you know, so many seconds a furlong, you know, took a bit of time, but then it really taught me, you know, how it all worked.
So did you come back? Because this year, the BHA 2020 have allowed this. Some trainers have been knocking on the door for these partnerships to become the norm. And in 2020, this year, the BHA have allowed it if you got your qualifications, which you did quite some time ago, didn't you?
Yeah, I did.
Got your license.
So I did them in 2010 and 11. And, you know, 4 or 5 years ago, we sort of went to the BHA and asked about dual licenses, and Rupert Arnold at the NTF, and sort of came into fruition last year. They were taking it seriously because they're doing it in France. And we did everything to try and make it work, Ed and Simon also. And luckily it happened this year. Fantastic initiative.
We've seen it with Richard Hannon kills, haven't we? Richard Hannon Senior, as we now call him, he basically actually stepped aside, didn't he? Your dad's not quite done that yet, has he? But these things probably are going to become the norm. And with coronavirus in particular, kills.
I think for Richard Hannon Jr. to take over, Richard Hannon Senior had to step aside, which obviously doesn't necessarily need to happen now. And I'm sure there was plenty of hands-on. I mean, the point is that, racing's long been about figureheads, isn't it? But the truth is, it's fantasy world to think that one trainer was training 200 horses, the big yards. I mean, they've got people with serious responsibilities, and it's probably right that they should be recognised.
Yeah, we're stepping into the real world. It's unbelievable, isn't it? But these are going to become the norm. So you're not quite Neil Armstrong, not quite the first to do it, but you are leading the way, I think, Ollie. And with coronavirus and the impact that we're going to see on finances, it goes without saying, it's a certainty that we are going to see some trainers merging, I think. And it can only be for the good of the game, I reckon.
Well, I think it's very good. I think it encourages, people to come into our yard where before it might have not seemed so accessible. I'd like to think it's a lot more accessible now. I have a lot of friends, sort of our age, coming into it, and I think there's a bit more traction for sort of younger people to come into Welcome. It's just such a glamorous place. It's got so much history, 5-6 Derby winners. I could bore you forever. No. But it's it's such an amazing place to come, and I really want to open it up to everyone.
And that's why you're here today, and we love to having you. So for us, it's not twice as nice. This week, thrice as nice. Right then, let's have a look at the racing clues then after that long chat that we had there and fascinating in-depth from Ollie Cole. Let's go straight to Pat Cooney. How was the Ebor Festival for you, Pat? Great news this week that crowds are coming back. We missed that, obviously, at the Ebor meeting. It's happening in September. How was the revenue, basically? Did we see any stars? What was the big hits for you along the way?
Well, the turnover was absolutely buoyant all days at the Ebor meeting, Dave. It was just terrific. And the handicaps were really the races where we did our money in. You think with the likes of Batash and Love all turning up at the gig and winning, but they were prohibitive odds anyway. But as bookmakers, you tend to think, well, we'll let them get on with it. We'll do okay on them. But you've got to win on the handicaps. And when you're offering these extra terms on extra places, it makes it tough, and even worse when the Haggis favourites win. So we were just about in front on the meeting, and I think we were happy to take that, really, because business was absolutely booming. It was, the Ebor rightly was by far the busiest turnover race of the week, and we did our money on the race, sadly. But from a racing point of view, it was just good to see us being as busy as we were, really.
Hey, Kills, come to you with this. Fujiera Prince, and let's start with him. I watched it from afar, and I couldn't. I mean, was it the ground? It was just a 2-horse race from about.
It was a bit of a strange race, wasn't it? I mean, they didn't seem to go that fast early. One got rushed up. Scarlet Dragon got rushed up, and I thought, what on earth is that doing in front of that stage? It was a funny race all around. But you can't knock a horse who's also won at Royal Ascot. He's going the right way. I mean, I've got to be honest. I thought that the staying performance of the week, possibly, especially in the handicap, was Coltrane in the Melrose.
Yeah, he looked good, didn't he?
Looked really exciting. For a horse who only made his debut in June.
Oh, amazing.
He was he really did travel well. He powered away from him. He's got to be a cup horse. I mean, he might come back for the Ebor next year, rated £20 higher than he was then. Yeah. But you'd have to think big chance in the says, even though he's going to. I don't know what he's gone up, but it's going to be a lot. Yeah. But I thought he was really good.
A division that needs some life into it, isn't it?
To have had such a relatively short career. I mean, the Baldings have obviously done an amazing job, and he's obviously a highly talented horse, but to do what he did was pretty remarkable.
Yeah, because it had just been small field, good to firm ground before that, hadn't it? You know what I mean?
Let's talk about some big hitters. Gayeth, rightly the best turf horse now in the world, Gills?
Best horse in the world, yeah. Don't see how you can argue that. I mean, no. We now keep saying, well, what about that time he blew out? But that's becoming a distant memory now, isn't it? He's become a consistent performer who they just can't get to.
And last week on Watch Out, your big call was take a price about Gayeth because it's a bit of an insulting price with Love. So we know what you think about the Arc and Love. And what did you make of this super filly that we've got now all of a sudden? Arc bound. Would you worry about the ground for her? She's got a bit of a daisy cut action, has she?
Yeah, I think I read your paper, and Aidan O'Brien said before the race they were a bit worried about the ground, but obviously she's gone through it now. But from when I was up there, I was told that the ground was sort of a bit loose and sort of quite firm underneath.
The first time up there, would it?
Yeah. No, it's funny ground at York.
So whether it was soft, I don't know. You know, she's an amazing horse. I think Gareth last year in the Arc, he got knocked in the knee and hampered a bit, and he started to pull. He's not the easiest ride, so it'll be very interesting this time round. I can't rule Love out personally from winning the Arc, but if Gareth turns up on the day and everything goes swimmingly, and who's to say that he won't win?
The only thing that I took umbrage from your big call last week when I watched it was he's been there before, isn't he? He's got to give lumps of weight away. And the problem is, Kills, last year it was bad ground for him and he came from that terrible draw. Yeah. What circumstances does he need differently?
Well, you would prefer better ground. You would prefer a draw closer to the rail, because obviously you have to run in lanes to start with, and otherwise he's got to use up a bit to get across so he can get in front, and there might be one or two that hassle him, whereas if he hasn't got that many inside him, he'll do it fine.
Well, you need that Frankie Dettori style, don't you? Sort of go straight for...
Yeah, go straight for even
Golden
longer,
Horn.
Just stay away from
Golden Horn route.
Yeah, that's
brilliant.
It.
But the problem is when the horse, I suppose, coming out the stalls, he'll be nice and you'd hope he'd be settled. He probably isn't a horse that needs immediate cover. It's just he needs nothing to hamper him.
He doesn't want to be hassled.
It was a hell of a week then, wasn't it?
He just seems to have been great. He just seems to have grown up this year.
So what a year we're having with coronavirus, but we've still got some incredible stars. And a horse that you know all about, having pretty much chased him home at Ascot, was Mahatha. Crushing blow this week for the mile division that we're not going to see that chap again. Seemingly the comments afterwards, they would have retired him anyway after the QE2 at Ascot, so we would have only had one. But Duke of Hazzard, a horse that we're going to get onto later on the show, he gave him a good go at Ascot, didn't he? He was a real star, wasn't he?
Yeah, he's a real star. It's a real shame for Marcus, who everyone knows is such a good bloke. A brilliant horse. It's a pity we can't see him out again. And I suppose they don't really want to take the time again to get him right, so they've just decided to call it a day, because, with these horses, you get these horses and it takes you a long time to get them right, and then, they go wrong again, and then that it might take a long time, so it's best to finish. And I think from a stud point of view, I think he's, if I had him, I'd be certainly sending him that way.
Yeah, absolutely. So Marcus Dragone's comments after the race, after that news, were refreshing, Kills, wasn't it? He came out. It was just like another day for him, wasn't it? I mean, there's a lot going on in the world right now. I expected him to be nearly welling up on that, because this was the horse that brought him back to the big time. But he was like, these things happen, and
yeah, well, I think trainers are, school of hard knocks, isn't it? You're going to get several in your life, like in a year, you get used to it, and if you got emotional over every single one, you'd be an absolute wreck by the time you're in your 40s, let alone 50s.
But the horse to take out of the week,
I like Coltrane.
Coltrane on note. All right, then, time to look at the first of the big races this weekend. No Group 1 action, of course, but there are some juicy races for it. And I guess, Kills, my weather expert out there, we've got to talk about what it's going to be like at Goodwood.
Get your wetsuits out.
Get your wetsuits out. Is it going to be that bad?
Yeah. I think it's going to end up being very soft, yeah. I mean, I think the going stick was 6.1 this morning. They're due to be raining on and off all day today. They'll have opened the ground after today as well, so it's going to be... and then it's going to be dry tomorrow, so it's going to be sticky stuff.
So come on, we've got 225, 7 furlongs.
Yeah, I mean, there's plenty of soft ground form in it. I bet one earlier in the week, Battered, who's sort of done the rounds. He was quite a good horse for William Haggis a couple of seasons ago, and he's won here on soft ground, and he ran really well behind another Haggis horse called Mojito at York. He's had a couple of quiet runs, but I thought the second was better than the first. I think he'll go well. I've started coming round to the outsider as well, though. Milltown Star for Mick Shannon. Now,
first time out on this ground.
First time out on this ground. First time gelding as well. Hasn't run for ages. There are your negatives, but I mean, he was progressing fast last year. He was second to Tom Frey at Newmarket. Tom Frey's improved again this year and is consistent. And then, of course, he went to France and he won a listed race from a runner-up. He was a close fifth in the French Guineas. He's, obviously there were negatives with him, but he's entitled to have made physical progress as well. And just because of the fact that he's the outsider of the field with a profile of a horse that really likes the ground, I thought, might be worth chucking a couple of quid out at a price. I could
hear an argument for the outsider. Ollie, 7 furlongs at Goodwood, to interject. Magical Wish is the favourite at the moment for Richard Hannon. Scraped home last time, but it's drawn to attack again. If you had a low draw over the 7, what would you be telling your jockeys to do? Make good use of it, or?
Well, I think so. The problem about the low draw at Goodwood is if horses can come on top of you, and before you know it, you're sort of at the back.
Yeah, and you're stuck.
And are they going to come? And
And
Side.
my view about Goodwood, I've said time and time again, is always come down the outside. Never, ever go on the inside. How many times have we seen horses get stuck? Always come down the outside. So if we give jockeys instructions, if we're in this position, always come down the outside.
This is a man who's had to talk to the owners 100 times about why their horses got stuck on the inside.
It makes so much sense. I mean, it can look brilliant when you snatch that run and you get through, but I mean,
one master like.
It's a rarity, isn't it?
Yeah,
you know what I mean. That's the thing.
I mean, these small fields, you just get blocked in, and these with the jockey to always come down the outside, and if you don't, you deserve to be.
Yeah, well, okay, fair enough. Well, before Ollie blows his top, let's go to Pat Cooney, give us a rundown. Now, I thought I found one here in Jack's Point, Pat, and I was hoping for a juicy price. I've got a feeling you might like him too.
Yeah, we've got him in, as we speak at the moment, at 11-2, and we're just respecting William Muir, stable going ever so well, of course. And he was only just narrowly beaten at Royal Ascot, wasn't he, of about £4 lower. So I'm not sure about the ground with him, that being said, but he's very much a form book chance. I'm actually agree with Keels. I thought Battered looked to have a reasonable claim. Axe on the ground, tick. Course and distance winner, tick. Oisin Murphy, tick. Yeah, so I thought he would have his chance. But I think heading in the market as we speak at the moment is Magical Wish. The only horse that's got recent winning form, I suppose. But tight handicap, you can make a plausible case out for them all. Battered is the one that my eye is drawn to. I must just say, the guy who sponsors this race, Brian Chataway, when I joined Ladbrokes years and years ago, before moving on to Bet365, he was at the company, and it's amazing. He's been 50 years at the company. Unbelievable, really. He only looks about 40 anyway, so I'm sure he'll have a good day tomorrow.
He's a bit like Ollie Cole then, who definitely looks younger. It's all about the sunbed, isn't it, you were saying? It's all about the golf course for him. I go to Turkey and I still can't match their tags. Battered, he could be a really well-named horse. The ground, it's going to get battered. You know who'll be battered at 225. 3 o'clock then at Goodwood. Let's move on. Stamina sapping ground. Small field as ever, usually for the March Stakes. It tends to be that way. 3-year-old stayers, mile 6 1 in honour of the great John Dunlop, of course. And a really, really interesting race, this. Small field. And we've got to come to the man who's got one of the fascinating runners in it. Celtic Art.
Yeah, well, that's one of the reasons we went there, because it's a small field. But we've always thought he's a highly, highly talented horse. We ran him in the Pre-Isame last year at the end in Deauville, and he got beaten by 3.5 lengths. But quite honestly, he was too far back to make any impression. But you
love going to Deauville, don't you? You've done it with quite a few of yours. Is it because you have a good time?
No, we love Deauville. We love the pizzas.
Is that the Duke of Hazard just tends to bring the prizes home?
Yeah, exactly.
Like that,
Exactly. Well, he you can afford the bill if he wins.
So is this chap going to... Now, he's interesting, this horse, Kills, isn't he? Because he ran, a decent handicap over mile 2 at the Glorious Meeting, and he did catch the eye staying on, didn't he?
Yeah, he did.
Big jump up in trip.
But he never got into the race.
And was that enough for you to go, this guy just needs to get over the distance?
No, he never really got into the race, and he never... when you're a trainer, you always... The jockey's responsibility, and I'm not saying this is something to do with what David did wrong. A jockey's responsibility is to get the horse to have a winning chance. You give the jockeys instructions, but they've always got to
Is this the Ollie Cole polite way of saying you got an absolute rollicking?
No, he didn't. But the horse has got to have be in a position where he's got a winning chance. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. And so you felt like he left something on the table.
Yeah.
At level weights, he's got a little bit to find, doesn't he? Kills at the weights.
He's got a little bit to find. It's an interesting race. I mean, obviously we've got desperate ground. You can have strange results. It's going to be that sort of day. The French run, the way he finished, tells you that he acts on deep ground.
Yeah.
So that's a massive tick, and we're not 100% sure. Let's talk about Cabaletta for a minute.
Yeah.
Now, she won on very bad ground at Newbury last year, but she won a race. She beat Frankly Darling, who was also as green as grass, and the rest were no good at all. So you can't take that as strong evidence that she really wants that ground. And of course, she got badly beaten behind Manuela de Vega.
Yes.
And then she handled fast ground really well against Ebor at Goodwood to finish second that day. So she needs a bit more to prove on that ground, I think.
She did win first time out novice on.
Yes, that's right. Yeah, that's what I'm saying. But she beat Frankly Darling, but the rest behind of them were rubbish.
So you're saying she was ready that day when some of the 2-year-olds might not be.
She didn't need to run to anywhere near the level to win that day she's going to need to run.
Sure.
And they thought she wanted it, didn't they? Because Rogers,
Yeah.
Varian's comments after the Haydock defeat, we're talking about a 6-5 shot. I think Pat's going to tell us in a minute. So one of the hot pots of the day. I think she'll probably win the race, to be honest. I think she might just go on it. I got a feeling that with fillies, you just don't know, do you? And Haydock might have just been one of those days where she wasn't at it. But he said afterwards, we were really surprised. We thought she'd want that ground, but she hated it. So if it is absolutely bottomless, she's going to drift probably, Paul, isn't she?
Well, you don't know. I mean, as you said, he said we thought she might. We don't know whether she likes the ground or not. I don't think she's necessarily going to be a drifter. I would back Celtic Art against her because I think he does handle it, and if he stays, he's got a shot. I think it's more open than the odds suggest.
Going from our work at home, he is a very classy horse, and dare I say it, we did think about the French Derby for him. He had a slight problem with his foot, and things haven't really gone to plan this year. But
at the time when you were thinking French Derby, were you thinking he's better than Highland Chief?
You can never, you can never say. We never put them together.
Right.
Admittedly, we do have the same jockey, Irinel, who's an amazing jockey, a Brazilian guy that rides them both. I can't tell you what he says, but he is a classy animal. This, and I think tomorrow he'll be bang on, and if he gets the trip, we don't know if he'll get the trip. One of the reasons is there's only four runners in the race. He's going there, but if he gets the trip, I expect him to have a really big race.
Now, off air, you said to me when we were coming in, you said, should we show everyone your notes, Ollie, by the way? They're not often. I mean, we haven't had anyone in here since coronavirus hit, but there's a lot of notes going on here, quite extensive. When I came in, you were really head down. Now, you said to me, sometimes you look at a race like this, it puts you off running a horse. Yeah. Is this one case where that's an exception to the rule? You're quite excited about this chap?
Yeah, I am quite excited about this chap. The Duke of Hazard race, you look into it. That's the kind of race for you. Yes.
All right, let's go to Pat Cooney. Listen, Celtic Art. What price can the punters expect to get stuck in at, Pat?
Yeah, Celtic Art. He's 4-1, and as Ollie was touching on, the trip I suppose was very much factored into its price. If you told me he's guaranteed to stay, I could imagine the punters switching into him. His form does look rock solid. As for Cabaletta, the favourite, she's top on the ratings, but the price wouldn't thrill too many people. I wouldn't imagine she'd shorten up. I actually thought in a 4-runner race, you got Subjectivist of Mark Johnson. I'd imagine he's going to bowl along in front, Joe Fanning pulling the strings, and it'd be a hard horse to reel in, I think. But from a tactical point of view, I think Subjectivist, he might just make all catch me if you can, but Celtic Art, certainly the horse for the future, definitely.
But he only ran last week, Subjectivist, didn't he?
That's typical Johnson, though, isn't it? And actually they turn up a Goodwood with a disappointing run next to their name, and they tend to sort of see you off, don't they? Yeah. So tactically, you're going to track this and hopefully pounce, because you're not going to want to play your hand too early with a horse that's never been over the trip.
No, this horse is always a horse that takes time to get going, and so what we'll probably tell him is to make sure you get going 2 furlongs out.
Okay.
Because otherwise
he won't catch up.
He is a horse that really you need to start rowing pretty early, I think. Subjectivist obviously ran last week. I'm sure he'll run another belter, as all Mark Johnson's do. But yeah, I think I'd be pretty hopeful that we're going to run a big race.
The people at the yard are watching this, and you making sure that they know that you've been doing your notes, aren't you? Because you've probably been doing this homework all along. Listen, what a fascinating insight into a small field. Celtic Art, could he pull it off? Right, let's go to Windsor then, the 3:15. Great to see Windsor getting a feature race on a Saturday. It is the Winter Hill Stakes. And again, Keels, I want to come to you first and foremost. Met Office suggests it's going to be awful today. We're filming this on a Friday, drying up on the Saturday. I didn't think it was going to be that bad. You've got a contrasting
you just said, it won't be that bad. But they've got a precautionary inspection booked. I mean, it depends on what they get. It's like you have a forecast and they say thunderstorms. And with thunderstorms, it means loads of rain or none at all, doesn't it? You know what I mean?
Yes.
That's what you can get. So... but obviously, I mean, the ground was very bad because they abandoned a recent meeting there, didn't they? So
they did.
And obviously it's right close to the river. It can turn into a right bog.
Yeah. This is the highlight of their season, so let's hope it's on first and
foremost.
foremost.
Let me just say, I mean, isn't it a bit strange, weird, possibly stupid race planning to have 2 races at Windsor that are very similar on the same day? You've got a listed race over mile 3 and a Group 3 over mile 2.
Yeah.
Or the other way round. I can't remember which way it is. But each race attracted the same 8 horses. It was double figure fields, but both races attracted 8 horses who entered in the same one. And so you were guaranteed small fields, that's what I'm saying.
Yeah, of all years, when there are no spectators, I mean, this is the meeting we were just talking off air, just quickly. This is the meeting, even more than Royal Ascot, this is the one I like to go to every, I'm sure you do.
Yeah, I
as
love
well.
it. Love
I always see you there. There's no hiding place at Windsor, is there?
No.
Whether it's a jockey or a trainer, the punters can get hold of you.
Yeah.
And they used to have a great crowd. It used to be the Twilight meeting. Pat was mentioning that as we were chatting just briefly there. And this is the one I think that they could have moved it actually. Of all years, they could have moved it around. So big call already from Paul Kealy coming in there. Have you got like a horse that you like in this?
Yeah, I think I like Fox Chairman because I think he's a class horse and I think he likes. I think
slop it out.
Yeah, I think he likes the ground. Yeah.
He didn't get the best of runs at York last time. I watched that back. It was behind Aspetar.
Yeah.
Extra Elusive is in there for Roger Charlton as well. Now, from a training perspective, if you've got a line on a horse that's a favourite, that's when you're doing your entries. You're keen to run or you're not, aren't you?
Yeah. I mean, we as we were sort of touching on earlier, that as I said, we never work Highland Chief and Celtic Art together, but you sort of
got a rough idea.
Your rough idea what's what.
Yeah, it always baffles me that when trainers say they don't work their horses next to each other. I'm like, well, how do you know? But it's the work riders that obviously come.
Well, the work riders, and you get a feel.
That's what they tell us, though, isn't it?
Well, that's what I mean.
They know.
And we've got our sectional timing machine there and everything, our heart things, and so we're all set up to know what's happening.
It's a professional.
We don't
outfit,
miss a beat.
Very good, Ollie. Okay, so Fox Chairman for Ollie. Paul?
Yeah, I mean, look, I think Fox Chairman and Extra Elusive are the two that virtually everybody's going to concentrate on. They are the most likely winners, but, again, bad ground. I quite like a big price on Sky Defender. I mean, he ran an absolute blinder at York the other day under 9 stone 10. Giving what I think was a well-handicapped horse in Rose Beckett's.
He loves the soft too.
You know what I mean? And he does like the soft ground. He's won a big handicap at Epsom on Derby Day. Again, just run a career best. I think RPR was 111. That doesn't put him a mile off, and he's 16-1.
And he's by far.
Yes, that's the other point I was
And
going to say.
Far's by
good spot.
Pivotal.
He's by far.
They love the ground.
Coming again, Ollie Cole.
How many,
Sorry,
how many horses beat Sirius Desagles on bottomless ground?
Fars do like the slot.
and
Yeah, they love
Franklin.
it. Love it.
Okay, that's interesting.
So, yeah.
I was going to take a punt as well on Tin and Darley, a horse that should have got a bit closer in handicaps in his life. Unlike Sky Defender, I think the track will definitely be in his, front running at Windsor.
Exactly, yeah.
It's going to suit, isn't it? Jamie Spencer takes a ride on this chap. He's just gone to Australian ownership, so he's going to be going down under. I think he's perfect also down under some of the big races. But I think if they start beating each other up front a little bit, I don't think he'll mind the ground. I can see Spencer lobbing along at some point. It's just whether he gets there a little bit too late in the day. But this is a race like you, Kills. I wanted to take a price
I
about.
don't think he'll be too far out the back, do you, Jamie?
Well, probably not, will he? Absolutely not. He'll probably be in the river by the time they're crossing the line.
He wouldn't want to get wet.
That is the Winter Hill Stakes. Right then, it's time for the big calls. I'm going to let Ollie Cole go first here. A big call. We like to every week ask our guests something you want to get off your chairs or something that you've seen. Or
I think you should call the programme The Big Shout.
I mean, what's all that about? This is What a Shout, man. It's not The Big Shout.
Oh, no.
It took such a long time to get the name for this.
Sorry. But I think racing misses an online YouTube presence like boxing. ITV get nearly 1 million followers or 900 followers every weekend, but boxing, these YouTube channels that go every single day interviewing these people, they get 900,000 every day, and you're getting three or four guys. I think the Big Shout needs to be out there every day with a camera. It can be one of these, it doesn't have to be an expensive camera, interviewing people, getting angles, and I think building up to these races. The Racing Post is, for me, the best paper in the world, of course, but obviously it's unaffordable to a lot of people. And I think the Racing Post, probably with the Big Shout, could probably make quite a lot of money through an online YouTube presence.
There's a spin-off here for your Kills, isn't there? But there is a problem with that, of course, that we keep coming up against, isn't there?
Yeah, exactly. It's accessibility to racecourse.
Well, racing's its own worst enemy, then.
Yeah, of course it is. Yeah, I mean, the point is we've done podcasts outside Cheltenham because we're not allowed in to do it. You're not allowed to record there. That's
crazy.
And it's not just we're not. Yeah. Let's not just pick out Cheltenham. It's not them that make the decisions. But there are times where you're just not allowed in. I mean, Sky for ages, before they got Ascot, I mean, they were doing a broadcast over the road or something, weren't they? You know what I mean? So
and at Cheltenham, sorry, Cheltenham.
But we're worrying about prize money, and it's it's a very boring subject. Well, it's not a boring subject; it's a very important subject. But if you've got you guys out there, the Big Shout out there, building these races up. Surely, like the boxing, they build these stories up, and even if it's two people you've never heard of, you want to watch them and you want to pay for it. And it's like you had those two online people boxing in America, and they had sort of, you know, they made
gloves are off a little bit.
Yeah. You just need to be out there doing it, and it will get a big traction. It's just, otherwise it's just so regimented and boring.
Yeah, I mean, in Australia, again, touching on that, they couldn't, you know, owners are allowed to film their horses in the paddock. There's been some hoo-ha about this year. John Dance, if you remember, he went up to his course, I think it was, up at Newcastle, wasn't it? And they were, you know, in a place like that, and they're like, straight away banning it on Twitter and things like that. It's absolutely absurd. Yeah, you're quite right. The problem
Open it up.
The problem is, Ollie, that unlike in Australia, Racing.com, for example, our friends down there, they're owned by the jurisdiction that Racing Victoria. So they're allowed to show everything. And you can get these punters, you know, filming themselves on course and it will go out there. Here, the pie is not open for everyone. That's the problem. There's no slices aren't being given around.
Well, I can't see it as anything untoward, you know, because, you know, it's not like they're going to come and film the races. Surely you can get people promoting the sport, promoting these individual horses. You guys must love handicappers, or you must love a maiden horse that's going to run. Yeah. You build these animals up, and then everyone's going to watch them. And YouTube is a massive platform. So, you know, as I said, these little people with their cameras get more followers than ITV do on the weekend.
Or big people doing
no
live
offense.
shows.
No, no
so
offense.
we can come and watch Celtic Art and Highland Chief work against each other. Yeah, we can.
Anytime, not against you. You can come anytime.
That's the invitation we want.
Anytime.
Fantastic big call, Ollie Cole. Paul Kealy.
You know me, it's a horse, and I've got some money to get back because I put up something. A big price for the Ledger in the hope that it'd run well in the Derby, and you know he's only just about finished the Derby, so we got to have another go. But now, you know, seriously, I was going back and watching the reruns of York and whatever, and Pile Driver is just a very good horse, isn't he? Like, you know what I mean? And he beat a good horse in Highland Chief, and he did it. You know, he's as authoritative a winner of the voltages that you could get, and in a normal year it'd make him favourite. Now obviously we've got Santiago likely to come over, the Irish Derby winner who was second to Stradivarius at Goodwood, but Racing Post ratings, best horse is Pile Driver. I mean, he's arguably the best middle distance 3-year-old colt in Britain, and he's around about 5-1, and I don't, you know, it just shouldn't be that big.
What's amazing is when you're, you know, I was obviously at York the other day, and we came second with Highland Chief, and there's not many people there, and you can hear the hooves and you can hear the whips and everything. Not, you know, they obviously don't whip them too much, but just watching this thing pile through, you're just like, really? Where on earth did that come from?
Yeah. I mean, you know, he's arguably not even bred, you know, just about bred to get a mile and a half, isn't he? Yeah. But he's just he is a very strong stallion.
Tom Seagal's Harbour
Watch, Harbour Watch, love the soft ground, the ones we've had anyway.
All right, there you go. Very, very interesting indeed. Pat Cooney, a big call, please.
Yeah, I just think it's great for us to be sponsoring at Perth on Sunday. We sponsor all 8 races on the card there, including the big Gold Cup up there. And it just drives home to you, David, how important it is for these tracks. It's just a real local communities, the bars, the restaurants, the hotels, all get the benefit of it if and when we're back up and running at full speed. And it's been a torrid time for these minor tracks, and it had great to have an opportunity to go up to Perth on Sunday to sponsor the card. It's on ITV. Cartmel was on last week, of course. And I think it's a real shot in the arm for these tracks. And people probably live relatively close to these tracks and probably have never dawned on them to go racing before. So it's not all about the Goodwoods and the Ascots by any means. And Perth would ordinarily expect a bumper crowd up there. And they do things ever so well up there, as Ollie alluded to. They're very much into the social media side of it. There's ladies' days, competitions, fun and games and so forth. So, you know, we're delighted to be going up there, and I wish that everything goes well on the day for us.
Yeah, here, absolutely.
So alluding to that point, if you ask me, we're still in the dark ages with social media, because this is not, they're not allowing this to happen, and build up in any sport in life is so important for viewers. And also, just going on from that, you're talking about the sponsorship side. We'd love to invite you down to Watcombe, because we're looking for a sponsor. I was hoping to see you here in the flesh, but you know, you're probably quite pleased you're behind the camera somewhere. But it'd be great to get you down to Watcombe one day. We know how generous you guys are.
Well, thanks very much. I shall take it to the higher authority, and we'll have a look at that one. But yeah, no doubt, I'm sure you're a yard going places. That's for sure. You're definitely on the right edge of things.
And you can get the inside scoop.
That's it. Watch Celtic Art beat Highland Chief on the Gallops. That's what it's all about. So now you know why Ollie's come in the studio. Pat Cooney's just been
He's not here.
Yeah, because he's not here. Hard luck, my friend.
Your producer promised me he was going to be here.
All right, my big call. Let's get to this. I'll keep it short and sweet. Sansa Marley, Richard Fahey, been retired to stud. That was that news this week. The same colours. They've got a rock and roll 2-year-old called Feora. Did you see her at Yarmouth on Tuesday? She took out a novice race. She is a serious machine in the making. They have got a horse that might just be up to going to the Breeders' Cup, God willing. Okay, let's go back to Goodwood then. 3:35, the race of the day, race of the weekend for many, is the Celebration Mile Group 2. And again, Ollie, comes straight to you here. One of my favourite horses in training, without blowing smoke, is the old Duke himself, Duke of Hazard. Won the race last year, got the form in the book. What happened last time at Salisbury?
Well, last time at Salisbury, and we were all scratching our head wondering what happened. But, you know, for me, he probably didn't get enough cover. We had a bad draw. He did far too much. And he just didn't finish his race. It's very disappointing. We got him back, scoped him, everything was fine. He's a horse that absolutely loves Goodwood. You know, he's won there 3 times. He's in really good form at home. He's won on the soft ground in France, but like we were talking earlier on, he was probably the class horse of the race. That's why he won. It's a bit of an unknown. Normally we'd think he'd probably want good summer ground, but we're hoping he'll go through this ground and run a good race. You know, he loves Goodwood. He's a brilliant horse, and it's the worst race he ran for a long time, the last one, and no one really knows why. But
Space Blues he chased home, of course, at the Glorious Meeting.
Won a Group 1.
Before that. This has surely been on your radar as being his race. Yeah. Now, Regal Reality Kills, who won that race, a class horse in the race, ahead of him in the betting. This is not his ground, is it?
No, I mean, it was a funny race, that Salisbury race anyway, because obviously you had Duke of Hazard, but you also had, I can't remember the name of the favourite now,
Mocketeal.
Something like that, yeah. It was, he was also incredibly keen, wasn't he? And just didn't stay. He was going up from 7 furlongs. And
well, both of us didn't.
Yeah,
finish.
you were just neither of them finished a race, something like that.
Go through my head. I can't get it.
But you know, so you've got that. We got out. He strode away, won by 3.5 lengths. But what did he beat? Beat Le Bon was second and lost at least twice the distance by staying in the stalls for a second as well, didn't he? So it's a strange race. Now he has actually got some form on soft ground. Obviously, he was third to Mountain Angel at Royal Ascot this year, and he has some reasonable form on soft ground, but it's not as good. But then you go with that. We've got Ben Battle. He is.
Oh man!
When Ben Battle runs, I think there's only 4 horses who've carried a higher official rating in Britain in 2020 than his 125. He's the class act, but he's only run twice on ground softer than good to soft in his life, and he's been well beaten both times.
All about the ground with him, surely.
He was last in the QE2. I've written in my piece tomorrow, and I'll be convinced he'll run when he goes into the stalls. Like, you know what I mean? Because I can't see why they would want to do that with a horse. He's going to have much bigger fish to fry than a...
Will he need the race?
He might do. He's gone well fresh before, though, hasn't he? Okay. You know what I mean? So, you know, if he needs to run, they're not going to give him a hard time. They're not going to bash him up, when it comes to...
they've got Dubai, haven't they?
They've got Dubai.
They've got another crack at Ascot, potentially.
Another crack at Ascot. Like, they've got other places to go
down
to
under
with a Group 1 horse. So, and when you look at it, if you talk about winning on soft ground and whatever, but it's what level of form you've shown. And if you stripped out all the form in the book, apart from form on soft and heavy, Century Dream comes out as best horse by £7, which is a lot. Like, that form was when he was close to the Roaring Lion in the QE2, which is 2 years ago.
He does seem to get an extra leg on soft ground, doesn't he?
He does, yeah. Now last year wasn't so good, but he'd had a hard 2018 and then went to Dubai, and I don't think that was any good for him. He's come back a fresher horse. He won very easily at Newbury. Okay, he beat that Dodgepot King of Comedy, but he did it easily. Last time, I just don't think a slow run race over 1 mile 1 on quickish ground at Chantilly and the Disfam was any good to him. These are his conditions, and he has the best form on bad ground.
God, you'd love to see it on good ground, wouldn't you?
Oh yeah,
what a race!
Absolutely. Now this is the race that you were a little bit, should we run, shouldn't we run? But this is his race, isn't it?
Yeah.
And he does love Goodwood. I'm sticking with the Duke. I'm all the way. Just tell David just to pounce late if you can.
Yeah.
I don't mind him coming between runners. I don't know. I know you want to go on the outside. But
No, we don't. Excuse me. For him, he's got to be covered up. Yeah.
There's a horse that ignites when he goes through runners.
Yeah, and then when he comes out, he goes. But
is that not a worry if they do come across, because they tend to fan out a little bit then, don't they?
And you want the rails sometimes, don't you? So interesting tactics. But I'm sticking with the Duke. So for you, Century Dream?
Yeah.
The Duke. All about the Duke. Pat Cooney.
I think the price is very much dependent on what the ground is. If the word good is in the going description, I'm sure Ben Battle will go a favourite. But it does come with a few ifs and buts about him, doesn't he? I thought Regal Reality looked a reformed character with the first-time visor last week. I would prefer him against Ben Battle. I keep thinking maybe Sabusco is a horse. I just give them the benefit of that every single run he has. He's got good handicap form. He's won on the course. Goes on the ground. I possibly would be more inclined to back Sabusco around about his 9-10 to 1 than certainly Ben Battle at 9 to 4. But I thought Regal Reality looked pretty good at Salisbury. Not sure if the race fell apart on him a little bit. So you can make a case out for several of these. I think maybe Sabusco's one. The tipping lines will just go for it at his price though.
Horses with so many questions to answer. Who's going to come out on top in a fascinating Celebration Mile? Let's move to a Sunday race for you then. Back at Goodwood, third day of consecutive racing at the Sussex track, and it is the Supreme Stakes kills, again over 7 furlongs, and we're expecting it to be really chewed up the ground by now, aren't we? Dubai, he's looked like he's been doing it for Space Blues, hasn't he? I don't think he'll mind the ground, he's a good one, but there's a horse that we're both interested in. He's going to love it if it's really hock deep, isn't he? And it's Snazzy Jazzy.
He is, yeah, Snazzy Jazzy. He's got some really, really good form on soft ground now. But I backed him for the Hopeful Stakes at Newmarket on Saturday because he's not actually won over 7 furlongs, and I think what he wants is a strong run 6 furlong on soft ground. He might get away with it. It's not the strongest Group 3 by any stretch of the imagination, but I don't. When you've seen him finish at 7 furlongs, it's just that last 50 yards or so really does seem to catch him out. I shall take a chance. He didn't run so well at York last week, but Escobar. I don't think it happened for him last week because that one master race
was a weird race.
Safe Voyage when they just sort of went slowly and he was stuck. He was cantering 2 furlongs out, but they were quickening ahead of him, and that's not the way he likes it. Obviously, he's won a Balmoral on bottomless ground at Ascot, so he handles it. He was only just behind Duke of Hazard in the Lennox, wasn't he? When third at a big price, so he handles Goodwood. And I think he'll run well.
Who's the hair in the race for him then? Because he's going to maybe Dubai. It might be Dubai.
Yeah, it could be Dubai. He has gone from the front. Yeah.
Toro Strike's really interesting in the race as well. Who took apart that handicap at the meeting. One of the best backed horses of the entire week. This might be a bit of a step up.
But it's a big step. It's a big step up. And again, it's one of those things I've fallen for it so many times. Where you get a horse going up from big field handy company to small field group company, and it catches so many of them out. I mean, look at the Moccatul or whatever it was in the Sovereign, just pulled the head off. Like, you know what I mean, having won a Bunbury, like, you know what I mean. And it's just completely different kettle of fish until they prove they can do it, settle and relax at that sort of early speed where and then they wind it up gradually rather than hell for leather from the off. It's completely different.
From a bit of a different perspective on the race, it's amazing how the BHA have let the name Escobar and Pablo Escobar.
Yeah.
Carry on.
I mean, let them be named those names. I mean,
you think so?
Well, I don't have a problem, but I mean, if you're, I'm pretty relaxed all around. But if you're, they look at it in the public interest.
Says the man that's brought a tie into the show.
I'm sure.
I'll undo the tie.
No, don't worry about it, Ollie.
You're
all good. You're putting us to shame.
I know what you're saying. I'm sure if you wanted to put sort of Jeffrey Dahmer in as a horse, you'd have that backed right out. But Escobar seems okay. He killed a hell of a lot more people, didn't he?
Well, absolutely, and they tend to be successful horses as well. So Escobar for you at a price?
Yeah, at a price. Well, hopefully at a price.
I'm going for a recovery mission on the Snazzy Jazzy. Time for the My Racing Double then. Do check out our friends at myracing.com. Expert analysis and tips. Got a huge Twitter following. We know you like their doubles. They've been on target recently and they're homing in on Goodwood 150. Happy Romance. Will she get home? The winning machine that has been. And the 3 o'clock, the mile 6. Staying at a premium. They think subjectivist will see it out best. Time for the weekend winners, the 4-timer that we're hoping is going to go in for you punters out there. We know you love this section. Let's go to Pat Cooney, a man that's often on target.
Yes, I'm off to Redcar for the 6:15, number 1, Ghali, Ghaly. Saeed bin Surur, and I thought he was impressive at Newmarket last time he ran. He won that day off 85. He's only went up £4 for that. You could say he could have gone up a bit more. I think rather tellingly, Saeed bin Surur after the race said, he could be one for the Dubai Festivals. Well, he's only 89. He's going to probably have to be 90s and beyond to feature in Dubai. But clearly he thinks this horse can keep on improving. It's a big field. There's plenty of chances. But Gali, I think he's top weight, but that's an optical illusion. I think he's a very well handicapped horse tomorrow.
Well, I must admit, he caught my eye, Pat, as well. I'm going to go to Naas for mine as a listed race over a mile 5. Galileo Chrome for Joseph O'Brien. Watch him back last time. He is a Group 1 performer in the making. I think he'll take that out. Ollie Cole.
We've got a nice filly running called Subtle Beauty on Saturday at Windsor. I think Glen Eagles, she's by Glen Eagles. I think she'll like the ground. I mean, I wouldn't know, but, from a... I'd guess she would. She's working really, really well. It's probably a hot race. I'd probably back her each way, but she could win.
First time out for Ollie Cole.
It's funny that Glen Eagles gets plenty of soft ground horses, yet hated it himself.
And he was saying like Pivotal as well.
Pivotal, again, a proper fast ground horse.
Well, Highland Cheap by Glen Eagles, he absolutely loves the soft.
Paul Kealy, complete the full timer.
Right now, you're a spotlight, right? You've written loads of spotlights in your time. You know when you price up a race, when you're a spotlight, people don't know. You price it up as how you think it's going to be bet, rather than how you think it should be bet. Now, when you're doing it personally, you do it the other way around. You price it how it should be bet. Now, in the Prestige Stakes at Goodwood, you get rid of all the gossip and all that. Isabella Giles will be a 13-8 chance, and she's 4-1, and I can't believe the price. She's got an amazing chance. She lost her unbeaten record at Ascot last time over 6 furlongs, but she hit the line really hard, and she's definitely going to get 7 furlongs. She's by Bellardo, won a Dewhurst on soft ground, finished second to Tepin in the Queen Anne on soft ground. We've got this Roger Sharton horse called Pomelo. No, sorry, Rafe Beckett horse called Pomelo, who's won one race at Newbury. She won it by 5 lengths, but second, third and fourth are rated no more than 71, I think the highest is. He called her leggy and unfurnished at the time. And I think she needs to be a little bit less of both to go through those conditions tomorrow. And the second favourite is Happy Romance, who has absolutely no chance whatsoever of staying 7 furlongs on bottomless ground. Not in a million years. Super sprint winner, suddenly going 7 furlongs on bottomless ground. Isabella Giles should be favourite. She'll love the ground. She'll stay it well and she'll win.
He could have gone on more about that, couldn't he? A bullish end to the naps. Well, that's another week done here on What a Shout. Do enjoy the sport going forward. Ollie Cole, thank you for coming in first and foremost. Lovely to see someone else in the studio, Keel.
Absolutely. Great
to lovely company.
Yeah, it's freezing in here as well. We need a bit more body warmth.
Yeah, we could have done with one of those tank tops, absolutely. But good luck going forward. You think we've got lots to look forward to for the rest of the year, and these training partnerships is the way forward.
Yeah, no, they really are, and I'm really enjoying it, and it's sort of bringing a new lease of life to me, and no, it's fantastic. And as I said, you're more than welcome to come down whenever you want.
There's the invitation. Happy days. Pat Cooney, thanks very much for joining us. Good luck at Perth and your travels.
See you at Welcome.
Yes, absolutely.
Pat Cooney, good luck on Sunday. So that's myself, David Orton, signing off then here on What a Shout. Do leave your comments for Ollie and Paul and Pat indeed underneath. You can do that on YouTube, Facebook, however you're watching us, Twitter, #WhatAShout. Don't forget, big weekend ahead, lots to aim at. Do gamble responsibly. Don't forget to download the free Racing Post app on the App Store or the Google Play Store indeed. Until then, be lucky.